These are the contradictions of Deuteronomy 6:13 to 7:22. God says in Deuteronomy, do not intermarry with them. So he says, do not intermarry with them, meaning the people that they go up against in war to take over their land, the promised land that God promised them. So it says, do not give your sons or your daughters away, because then they'll turn your sons and your daughters away from following him to serve other gods. Now, the contradiction to this in Deuteronomy, I truly believe that the evil one, he wrote contradictions, trying to contradict what God was saying, going against what God was saying. So in Deuteronomy 21:1, it says, you can take a captive woman as a wife after a war. It's right here in Deuteronomy 21:1. Marrying a captive woman when you go to war, when you go to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands, and you take captives. If you notice among the captives to a beautiful woman and are attracted to her, you may take her as your wife and bring her into your home and have her shave your head and trim your nails and all that. But God said, you must destroy all the people the Lord your God gives over to you. So going back to that, it says in Deuteronomy, 6:13, it says, make no treaty with them. When the Lord your God delivers them over to you and you defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. Okay, so that's a contradiction. And the evil one has been messing with the Bible since the beginning, and that's proof. Now, he put that in there that you can take a foreign wife captive because obviously they turn, God's people against God by worshiping their gods, the foreigners' wives, or the foreigners' gods. And you can see that in what happened to King Solomon. Okay, so also another contradiction is, it also says, must destroy all people, right? And then I just read, if you notice, this is what it says in 21:1. If you notice among the captives a beautiful woman, you may take her as your wife. That's two different things. God says not to, and you destroy all, have no mercy, all of the people. But in 21:1, it says, you can take captives and take a wife and let her, if you don't want her, you can let her go wherever she wishes. Let me show you that real quick. 21:1. It says, if you are not pleased with her, let her go wherever she wishes. Wherever she wishes. That's like completely like it's the complete opposite of what God says right here, to totally destroy all the people the Lord your God gives you in battle, right? Okay, next one is Deuteronomy 11:28 says, do not worship the Lord your God in their way. And so in 11:28, it says this, nevertheless, oh, that's not it. It says, but okay, so it says that, right? In their way, don't worship. But it also says in 11:28, bring your burnt offerings and sacrifice to the Lord on an altar. And I'm not sure if that's a contradiction, but it does say don't worship God in their way. And then it also says bring burnt offerings and sacrifices to the Lord. Isn't that what they were doing? Because it says to completely destroy, break down their altars. They have altars. Smash their sacred stones, burn their Asherah poles. I think that's the demon woman that they would make statues to worship. And in there rejoice before the Lord your God. Okay, so, oh no, that wasn't it. It was right here. I'm sorry. So burn their Asher poles in the fire, cut down the idols of their gods, and wipe out their names from those places. So it says, do not worship the Lord your God in their way. So they all. It also says, bring your burnt offerings and sacrifice to the Lord on an altar. They have altars, and it's also the thing about their name, wipe out their name on their place. And it says to not only do that, but God's going to put his name wherever, the place he tells you to make the altar. It's kind of the same thing. It's like Downer is trying to trick everybody. Special gifts, bring the special gifts. Firstborn of the herd and flocks. Whatever that is. I know that's 10% of the land that God gives you and of the, like animals. Choice possessions. I just don't know how to say that word. I don't want to mess it up. And choice possessions. That doesn't make sense. Okay, but whatever. So it says break down their idols, gods, altars, stones, and so wipe out their names from those places, right? And so their names from those places. And you can find this all in like 11:28, these contradictions. Okay, then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name. So here we go again. Don't worship the Lord your God in their way, but God says to break down all these things that they have, and then their names, wipe out their names. Now, God will choose a dwelling place for his name. It's kind of the same thing, right? But anyway, but you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose. So now you're choosing, because it didn't say, then the place the Lord God will choose. Now all of a sudden, but you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices. It's kind of the same thing that they're doing when it says, do not worship the Lord your God in their way. It's all right here. It's really just like this is contradicting this side, but it's the same. You can go to 12:29. It ends there, but it begins pretty much here but just go to 12:29 if you want to see these contradictions right here. These ones right here. Okay, so the next one contradiction is 12:29 says, burnt offerings only at the place the Lord will choose. Must not eat in your own towns. And right in the same 12:29 it says, if the place where the Lord chooses is too far from you, do it, meaning sacrifice, burnt offerings, and eat meat in your own towns. See how that's a contradiction? Must not eat in your own towns. If it's too far where God chooses, then just go to your own towns and do everything that God says not to do unless He. Okay, so that's a contradiction. You are to eat meat in the presence of the Lord your God will choose. The contradiction in the same exact 12:29 Deuteronomy, in your own towns you may eat as much of them as you want, which is meat, right? So the contradiction to eat as much as you want in your own towns to this is, God says you must not eat in your own towns the 10% of what God gives you, grain, the new wine, firstborn of the herd, oil, or whatever you vow to give free will offerings, special gifts. Instead, eat them in the presence of the Lord your God. Because basically it says if you crave meat and say, I would like to eat meat, then you may eat as much of it as you want in your own town, if the place where the Lord your God chooses to put His name is too far away from you. So that's a contradiction on a lot of things, because if they wanted meat to eat, obviously they have, they have these gifts, they have the herds, but God says to not eat anything that you have unless God Himself, you are in the presence of the Lord your God. But if it's too far, the contradiction over here is, if it's the place too far, yeah, you can eat all the 10%, I forget what it's called, the tidings, I guess. You can eat that. You can eat all the new wine. Just eat up all your herds because it's too far. And God says not to do that. Anyway, so read that if you're confused off what I'm saying. Next is, God said you must not, must be in a holy place for the burnt offerings. And then the contradiction says, eat flocks and herds from your own towns the Lord has given you, as I commanded you. But God's commanding that you must be eaten in a holy place, the burnt offerings. So this one's saying hometown, you can eat in your hometown, the flocks, I command you. And then this one says in a holy place. Okay, so basically this section right here has the same exact words except for small little details on the contradictions. It also says must not eat the blood with the meat. And this one says, okay, so they both say don't eat the blood with the meat, both sides. See if I can find it. Yeah, but you must not eat blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. And this one says, do not eat the blood, because the blood is the life. Do not eat it so that it may go well with you and your children, because you will be doing what is right in the eyes of the Lord, right? Pour the blood out like water. But over here, right here, the blood of your sacrifices must be poured beside the altar of the Lord your God. But you may eat the meat. Okay, so present your burnt offering to the altar, both meat and blood. So on the altar, now either it's you pour it on the ground, the blood out like water, or you present your burnt offerings on the altar with the meat and the blood. Two separate contradictions in Deuteronomy. I believe it's because of the evil one.